Welcome to the Real Estate 401k Show. Here are your hosts, Ryan Gerdes, Mike Weinstein, and Justin Frederick, helping you build a legacy of wealth through real estate. Powered by the Recount Group at West USA and the Frederick team with Fairway Mortgage. NMLS number 625918.
So earlier this week, we were talking about experienced agents versus inexperienced agents. And I want to walk you through the second real estate transaction that I ever did. And this episode is just, it's about crazy stories, crazy transactions. So, you're going to enjoy it. So the second transaction I ever did was a lease purchase. So if you're not familiar with what a lease purchase is, it's kind of like a rent-to-own, a lot more nuances to it. And we're trained as real estate agents to be able to sit across the table from someone and go through and explain the real estate contract to them while we're seeing the contract upside down. So now I've got a 9-page lease purchase agreement that I do not even know what it says, right? But I fumbled my way through it, and we closed on it. So in a lease purchase, the buyer is really a tenant in respects. And so a couple months into it, he calls me and goes, "Hey, man," he goes, "I got this hot tub in my backyard, and this house is in Fountain Hills." He goes, for $1,000, you want the hot tub? I'm like, "Yeah, all right." So gave him $1,000. I paid like $300 to have some company haul that hot tub to my backyard in Litchfield Park. And then he ended up skipping town. So the seller / landlord now gets the house back, and he wants to know where his hot tub is. And I don't know to this day how he knew that I had the hot tub. So a couple months later, I get this knock at the door, and it's the sheriff's department wanting to know if I have this hot tub from the house in Fountain Hills in my backyard. And I was so confused. I'm like, how would he know? I'm like, did you bring beer? Did you bring some girls? What are we doing here, right?
I'll fire it up.
So he goes, yeah. He goes, you're going to need to return that. So I called our broker. Our broker at the time was Todd Menard. I explained the situation. Todd, he doesn't know me. My name is Mike Weinstein. I'm brand new to New Home Information Centers. And this is the situation. And now I've got this hot tub in my backyard. I go, what should I do? And he goes, you return it right away. So I had to spend another couple $100 to haul that thing back to Fountain Hills.
Did you get your $1,000 back?
No. So
and we had to pay another moving fee on top of it.
So it was a very expensive lesson for me. But we've all have seen these transactions, these crazy deals.
Yeah, I've had some whoppers too. It was like the second or third year I was in the industry. I listed this home as a historic home, and it just needed
a good one.
Ton of work. It just needed a ton of work, and it was unfortunate. They were going through a divorce situation, and so we get it on the market, and we put it under contract with it. Well, preface it, we get an offer from these folks. It's another real estate brokerage. And they wanted to buy it because it was kind of on a busier street, 7th Avenue. And they wanted to use it as a broker's office and, like a call center and, conference rooms, etc. And they wanted to do a prepossession, meaning that they wanted to occupy the property before we actually closed. And they were willing to put down $100,000 of non-refundable, and not only non-refundable, but would actually go over into the seller's pocket before we close. And so there was a lot of negotiation, a lot of back and forth. There was a lot of just terms and different things that were in there. I don't want to get into all the crazy nuances of it, but so they move in, and they completely gutted all the electrical system, the HVAC system. They did a bunch of foundational work, paint. They redid the bathrooms. I mean, at that time they dropped around $80,000, which in today's time is about $240,000 worth of work into this property before they even closed. And so we're just kind of sitting back like, you guys are nuts. You don't even own this place, and you're dropping cash into this thing. And then and they also had $100,000 over into our seller's pocket already. Comes time for the appraisal. The appraiser goes over there, and says,
Don't roll your eyes, Justin.
he walks in there, and it's
I thought the appraisal was done at this point.
No, it was a prepossession.
No, it's a prepossession. Yeah, this is like
Yeah, but
2 days after the offer was accepted, they moved in and started doing all this work, and were actually occupying the property. And you walk in there, it's like a bullpen,
Yeah.
right? Like there's just
It's destroyed.
24 people on the phones, and there's this going on back here, this going on over here. And so the appraiser says, I can't appraise this. This is a commercial property. There's not even one element of this property that even insinuates that it's being used for residential purposes. And so he says, all right, guys, I'm not going to say anything, but I'm going to come back in a few days, and one of these rooms needs to be occupied as, like with a bed or something like that. He was totally like,
This is how you need to do it.
yeah, he was giving us the workaround.
What
on
year
it.
was this?
2004.
Perfect. Makes sense.
Yeah, and we're every.
I can't believe the appraiser even came out there.
Yeah, so I go over to the buyers, and I'm like, hey, look, you guys have an issue here. And they're like, well, what's that? And I said, well, you guys, per your appraiser, you need to make one of these rooms look residential, and then they'll come back and then they'll perform the appraisal, and everything will be good to go. He's like, well, that'll leave us like 3 days of not being able to run business out of that part of the house. And I was like, right. He's like, yeah, we're not willing to do that. And I'm like, then you're going to be in breach of contract. You're not going to close. We're going to kick you out. We're going to take, we already have the $100,000, that you put down, but then we're also going to have a home that has a whole new HVAC, electrical, etc. And no, that's not the way it's going to work. Anyhow, the way I said it was the way it was going to work, it is actually how it did end up working. We ended up booting him out. It was this big, nasty, ugly lawsuit. And the judge just laughed them right out of the courtroom like, you guys are morons. What in the hell were you thinking? Furthermore, you're a real estate brokerage.
Yeah.
You should know
I
this.
figured that's what was going on.
And so they threw the book at him, and then they slapped them with an $80,000 fine.
Jeez.
It was just like, I mean, it was ugly and it was nasty, but I learned a ton. It was just one of those crazy, bizarre stories. Like, what in the hell were you thinking?
Well, experience is key, and we are a group of real estate wealth managers. Our mission is to help our clients build a legacy of wealth through real estate. We'd love to have a free consultation with you. All you got to do is text the word crazy to 623-AZ Recon.
Yeah.
That's crazy to 623-AZ Recon. Justin, you've got to see some crazy stuff on your side of the table, on the lending side.
I've seen so many, and I've got so many stories here, but here's one that was extremely wild. So 2 brothers went and bought 2 separate homes from a new build, okay? And the homes were 2 houses away from each other. And one of the brothers came to us to do a refinance on the house when rates were low. And so we start the process. We get title work back, and we order the appraisal. Appraisal comes back, and the appraiser says, "This isn't the right house. Something's wrong." And so we start doing some research, and the new build recorded his address as the other brother's address, and the other brother's address as his address. So
What?
they were paying taxes on the wrong houses. The deeds were recorded on the wrong houses.
And so this is the builder's fault.
Correct. And even the addresses were incorrect because they had them flip-flopped. But the mail was being delivered correctly this was like 15 years, okay, that they had been living like this.
Shut up.
And and you would not believe it took 6 months to get it flipped around, and by that time the rates had just gone wild.
Oh, no.
And he had to spend thousands of dollars and had to have real estate attorneys involved, and it was wild. Even the counties had
That's crazy.
everything mixed up on the plot maps too.
So I was invested with a group of guys we had at this home. I was a very minor and silent investor in this deal, but it was a new build. And so we bought the house, and again, going back to a lease purchase, we sold it to somebody on a lease purchase. So they moved in, and after 6 months in, summer hit, and something was wrong with the AC unit. So it was still under the builder's warranty. So we called the builder, and they went out there to fix it, and they got into the attic. And so fast forward, we're watching the news that night, and there's a drug bust in Avondale where they found just hundreds of pounds of weed in this attic, and it's our freaking house.
Shut up.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's wild.
I got a really wild one. Okay, so Florida, doing a transaction in Florida, get the appraisal back, and in the basement of this house, it was stem walls, and so this guy cut out a piece of the stem wall to make an entrance, and there was an alligator
Oh my!
in there.
Have you seen The Big Short? Have you seen The Big Short?
No.
Mike, did you get your homework done?
Okay, as I mentioned to you, I'm just going to start lying to you. So yes, I watched it.
No, you guys suck.
An alligator and a donkey.
Yeah, anyhow, I love that movie.
In the same room,
In the same basement.
but like
There was a fence.
okay.
I
But
was
we
gonna
got
say,
we had this on an appraisal. It was wonderful.
So how much was the alligator worth?
They called it unsafe. They wouldn't give a value
Well,
on
so
it.
was it during like the short sale of like REO days?
It had to be. It had to be just after it, because
Because that was some wild shit.
it was. Well, you want to hear something? The most wild appraisal I ever got. Detroit, during the short sale foreclosure days. It must have been 2010 area. Beautiful 1,800 square foot house.
Going for
in Detroit.
$40,000.
$525.
Yeah, that was going on back then.
$525, and it was a brick built home. I was like, I could go there and buy a neighborhood.
Yeah.
I don't know. I wish if I would have had the money, I would have gone and bought a neighborhood.
Coulda, shoulda,
Justinville.
Yeah. Or you can do another Fredericksburg.
$525.
Yeah.
Well, there are all types of crazy transactions that go on out there. You don't want to be part of one of those, and having the right and experienced team of real estate wealth managers and agents on your team is paramount. To learn more about us, to talk to us, go ahead and text the word crazy to 623-AZ-RECON. That's crazy to 623-AZ-RECON.
So going back to the REO short sale days, and this happened pretty frequently. This isn't like just a one-time thing. I would walk in there and people would be, they would felt so slighted by the banks and whatnot. So if they were going into foreclosure, they would strip
Destroy
the house
it.
of everything. They would pull out all the copper.
Yep.
They would pull out all the wiring.
All the light
And then
fixtures.
I've even seen them go over to post-tension foundations and just start taking hammer drills to the foundation to try to snap those.
That's dangerous.
Yeah, and I was like, those guys are ballsy.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, no, and then one time I saw some dude went over there after he pulled out all the toilets and everything. He mixed up concrete
Put
and
it in
shoved them down the drain lines, and I was like, that's cold blooded.
That's cool.
I one time showed a home. We went and looked at a foreclosure home back during the days when the market crashed, and the seller did the same thing. Took the toilets, smoke detectors. Like, why do you take smoke detectors? Faucets, everything, and they even took the kitchen island. Like they just like I wouldn't even go through the work because what are you going to do with that? I get the toilet. You take a toilet, you can do something with the toilet. There's no used kitchen island market out there, right?
Right. They all thought they were doing something to the bank, and it didn't do anything to the bank. It did something to the investors. And I mean, to be honest, Fannie and Freddie is public.
Yeah.
And they're just doing it to themselves, and we run off of those.
Yeah, and they're the ones that decided to lie on their loan application or whatever. You know,
Right.
like, I mean, it was
two-sided.
everybody
Yeah.
did it. Like I get
The
it.
banks
There's-
didn't have the modifications. It was a mess.
Well, I know you've probably seen this a million times, but it was about 6-7 years ago. Kind of left the corporate world here at West USA and got back into selling, and it was one of my first buyers that I was working with, and it was an incredibly complicated process for the lender. The lender put in so much sweat, tears, and grit just to get them to the finish line. I schlepped them all over. We looked at this home, that home, put an offer here, put an offer there, and we finally getting this to the finish line. And a day before, and I know you've had to make this phone call a gazillion times, the day before the lender calls me, he is practically in tears because he's invested so much time in it. He goes, yeah. He goes, we did a second credit pull, and they 2 weeks ago decided not to make their car payment.
That one's terrible, and then I've had so many people quit their jobs.
I've had people lose their jobs day of close.
I mean, the lose the jobs, like, that's uncontrollable factor, and it sucks. But the people that quit their jobs,
but it's insult to injury. Oh yeah, if they quit, it's like,
and you're like,
dude, what are you doing?
Right. We owe.
Yeah, I had, speaking of that, I had a client call me like 4 or 5 days prior to close of escrow, and she goes, "Is it okay if my husband quits his job?"
No.
No. She's
Wait
like,
6
she's
days.
like, it's too late.
Oh God.
Fortunately, the lender never did a job verification.
So-
a second job verification.
Well, they probably filled out a paperwork that they did, but so just to let everybody know out there, even if you put your 2-week notice in, so the likelihood of we have to get this verification of employment. When we get it, it says likelihood of continuance of this job, and if you put in your 2-week notice, they're going to say no.
Very little likelihood.
Yeah. So we're screwed there too. Just FYI.
Well, if you'd like to hear more stories and over beer on you, text the word crazy to 623-AZ-RECON. But more importantly, we are a highly skilled, highly trained, highly experienced team of real estate wealth managers, and we'd love to guide you through the home buying, home selling process. To get connected with us, go ahead and text the word crazy to 623-AZ-RECON. That's the word crazy to 623-AZ-RECON.
Thank you for joining us on the Real Estate 401k Show. If you want more information on how to build wealth, click on the link or text us at 623-297-3266. That's 623-AZ-RECON.